Will the committee supply please come to order? This section of the committee supply will now resume consideration of estimates for the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning. Questioning for this department will proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honorable Member for Transcona.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to welcome everyone back to this portion of our estimates dialogue. It's something that I've mentioned before in two previous occasions. I look forward to this dialogue because it allows us to get a real, I think, a clear indication as to the direction that the department is going in. You know, Mr. Chair, yesterday we had that absolutely terrible news of the discovery of yet another body in a landfill in Winnipeg. Linda Mary Beardy from Lake St. Martin. The violence being perpetrated against Indigenous women and girls, two-spirited people, is concerning and leaves, especially, I mean, for all Manitobans, but for educators who work with young people and want to provide absolutely everything for young people when they arrive at school. I can tell you, Mr. Chair, that myself and part of the Manitoba NDP team was invited by Lakeshore School Division to visit their school division and to take a look at the work that they're doing, not only with their kids, but also with their communities. You know, and in sitting at Asheron Central High, we had the opportunity to have lunch with the divisional leadership team, the school leadership team, teachers, and most importantly, Mr. Chair, students. I recall with great, you know, humility, the opportunity to speak with young Indigenous girls that are attending that school. And you know, when we were sitting having lunch, that was prepared by the school, which was also quite a humbling experience to see the lengths that they went to welcome us, because they wanted to share their stories. As educators, we're listening to stories every day, the stories of our kids, our families, our communities, and we certainly were doing that day. And I was talking to some students, and I was asking them, because some of them are grade 12 ready to graduate. And I asked a young student, what are your plans coming out of Asheron Central when you graduate? And this student said to me, oh, I'm going to be attending SAIT, the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology for Welding. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. A Manitoba student is leaving Manitoba to go to school outside of that, and outside of Manitoba. I asked her, why are you leaving? You know, Mr. Chair, she said to me, she doesn't feel safe in Winnipeg, and her experience coming down to this city. That left me with a lot of pause. After the news of yesterday, it got me thinking about that. And I know the minister and his department is talking about on page 15, treaty education, Manitoba's Aboriginal languages strategy, system-wide progress towards reconciliation, commission's calls to action. I know the minister has talked about Mama-Tuisamen. My question to the minister regarding this very serious issue, very serious concern brought up by this young person that we were talking to, is how will Mama-Tuisamen mitigate the need for our Manitoba students to leave Manitoba to feel safer in another area instead of staying here in Manitoba? And this is not intended as a gotcha question, Mr. Chair. I truly want to know what concrete strategies are going to be put in place so that our kids, once they graduate, can continue on their path to post-secondary excellence and then becoming contributing members of our society here in Manitoba.
The honorable member, or minister, I'm sorry, of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and and we on the government side as well. And I'd like to thank my friend and the critic of Education and Early Childhood Learning, the member for Transcona, for starting off our afternoon session with this topic, and absolutely condolences go out to the entire family and of course the community. And it is tough. It's tough when we see these things happen within our communities and Winnipeg, but not only Winnipeg, but various different situations happen around Manitoba. And as the member knows, because he's worked as a educator for 33 years, there's been challenges and various different things that I think all governments of all stripes have strived towards doing better. And the member from Transcona made a couple comments, and so I'm going to probably take a couple times to be able to address some of the topics that he's brought up. When we talk about Manitoba and we talk about making sure that success for all learners, as I've said multiple times, no matter where they live, their cultural background, or their own personal circumstance, I think is very important. As we spoke yesterday and had a bit of a debate back and forth, and it wasn't really a debate, it was more so comments back and forth, because we weren't really debating it, because we know how important it is to make sure that we have safe learning environments for our kids in Manitoba. And so what we heard loud and clear from the K-12 Commission was to be able to listen to those 30,000 Manitobans and come up with some directives or some directions that Manitobans felt that we as a department and Manitoba Education should be going. And that's why the member brought up the fact that how we came up with the Indigenous Education Policy Framework called Mamatuwisuwin. And so within the K-12 Action Plan, we have some very important pillars. And those pillars, and keep in mind, I've told the member before that the K-12 Action Plan is a living, breathing document. And those 4 pillars are high quality learning, student engagement and well-being, excellence in teaching and leadership, and responsive systems. And within those 4 pillars, or shortly thereafter, we also launched, as we said, the policy framework called Mamatuwisuwin, the wonder we are born with. And the policy framework of Mamatuwisuwin takes the various different cultures and takes a look at the different cultures and backgrounds of many different wonderful individuals that call Manitoba home, and takes those opportunities and winds them in those 4 pillars that I've already talked about, the K-12 system or the K-12 Action Plan. And Mamatuwisuwin basically is helping to advance the Truth and Reconciliation calls to actions numbers 62 and 63. Now the member shares the story, and I appreciate the member's story in regards to a young lady who's going to leave the province to carry on with some post-secondary education in another province. And we take a look at throughout the province, and we do have students that leave, and we do have students that come to Manitoba. And we want to make sure that we are making those opportunities available, and I'll target more in the next answer, Mr. Chair.
Minister's time is up.
That was the fastest
The
5 minutes I've had in
honorable
my life.
member for Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to give the minister an opportunity to further elaborate on how Mama Tuisamen, like what that particular strategy through the 4 pillars, how is a school going to look different? How is it going to ensure that it's following the department's directions around what Mama Tuisamen stands for? Like I said earlier, when you walk into a school, you notice the culture immediately, the type of, just through the way kids navigate through the building, the way adults interact with each other. If I'm understanding the minister correctly, Mama Tuisamen will actually have some really concrete pieces that'll impact student learning directly. I'd like him to expand a little bit more on how it'll impact student learning directly.
The honorable minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and I know well, maybe the member doesn't know this, but I know we've shared back quite some time ago when I had the opportunity to start off as becoming a guidance counselor in Sunrise School Division, specifically in Ecole Edward Schreyer School. And we talk about, at that time, Aboriginal academic achievement. And now it is the IAA, which is Indigenous Academic Achievement through the department. But back when I was still doing guidance counseling, there was an opportunity and I guess an advertisement for a position in the school. And then with that position came a larger opportunity to be on a leadership team for the school division, and again it was funded through the AAA grant, and so I had applied as a relatively new guidance counselor in the building as far as the title, but I worked with many students with varying degrees of abilities throughout my school career, and had that great opportunity of being chosen to be the AAA leader for the school. And then in addition to that, was able to get additional training and be part of a Aboriginal Education Committee for the Sunrise School Division. And this was something that we did and we worked with many different organizations and committees from all across this great province of ours, and I really feel that a lot of that training that I had back then was absolutely one of the best sets of training that I've had as an educator, because it opens your eyes to various different things that to quote an elder that I see on a regular basis. She said to me, Wayne, my boy, hopefully I can say that, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that as time had gone on, there's many things, and I think I think we're all lifelong learners, and we want to make sure that we're moving towards some form of knowledge. And when we talk about the truth and reconciliation and the calls to action, I really feel that you can't have reconciliation unless you have the truth. And so that's why, again, I commend the hard work of not only the department, our Indigenous Inclusion Directorate, but also so many more Manitobans that had come together and giving their thoughts and ideas on how we continue to move things forward. This isn't something that is going to be fixed or accomplished in one day, but at least I feel that we're moving forward. And so we've got many things that we've done as a department already, and I'll continue to elaborate on them as time goes on this afternoon. But, elders and knowledge keepers. We also did the foundation part of the school division planning, which is the framework for continuous improvement. We are having conversations with all of our school divisions to make sure that they're reporting back on how they are implementing Mamatuwisawin along with the K-12 action plan within their curriculums. This is also changing classroom teachers by providing more knowledge of Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing as well. We are having regional sessions throughout Manitoba, which I am seeing firsthand the great energy. And I really do think that Manitoba is a leader. Not I think, I know we're a leader in the country in regards to some of the things that we are doing towards Indigenous education and inclusion. And as I've mentioned before, one of the three of the main topics coming out of the K-12 Commission is focusing on numeracy, literacy, and Indigenous education and inclusion. And I will share more with the member at my next opportunity.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did hear the minister talk about regional sessions. I'm genuinely curious about that, and would like to know a little bit more around where are those sessions taking place, who is leading the sessions, and what the department was wanting to ensure teachers had. I know that's 3 questions. It's kind of like location, who led it, and what were the main learning outcomes that were desired by the department. So that's 3.
The honorable minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and we got a little bit of feedback. Oh, I know why. There we go. I'll uncover the microphone. So thanks. I'd like to thank the member for the question because it gives me an opportunity to put some of the good work that the department and that the work that our government has been doing in regards to Mamatuwisawin, and again, the commitment for the department towards truth and reconciliation, and our government's commitment to that. So Manitoba's Indigenous Education Policy Framework, Mamatuwisawin, which is actually, the name has come from a ceremony, and it's Cree, and it's the wonder we are born with, and it's grounding all of the work and is indispensable foundation for our education system. And the Department of Education funds school divisions and Indigenous education partner organizations to the tune of just over $14.1 million to support the Indigenous education initiatives. So back in the winter and spring of 2022, 11 school divisions with 3 schools each piloted the initiative of Elders and Knowledge Keepers. And this initiative was expanded for province-wide implementation with funding to all school divisions for the 22-23 school year in the total of $2.2 million in funding. This initiative has been guided by the Elders and Knowledge Keepers Advisory Council, which is comprised of 7 elders and knowledge keepers from all across this great province of ours. The council has met 6 times since inception of the project and has validated the Elders and Knowledge Keepers in Schools guidelines. Now, we talked about, the member want to know some of the sessions and where some of them were located. So Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning funded the Manitoba Rural Learning Consortium, as we spoke about yesterday briefly, to facilitate the orientation of Mamatuwisawin for teachers, school leaders, superintendents, and Indigenous education leaders. 6 sessions have been held from October to March, with 155 total participants. Sorry, so the member asked me what years, and so that was October of 2022 to March 2023, with 155 total participants, 89 who self-identified as frontline educators, 19 school divisions and districts had participated. All divisions and districts are invited to 5 regional orientation sessions and a French session on Mamatuwisawin for the tools for reflection, planning and reporting, and Elders and Knowledge Keepers in Schools guidelines. The department is providing funding to divisions, districts for superintendents, school leaders and principals, Indigenous divisional leaders, board trustees, and divisional elders and knowledge keepers to attend. As I was mentioning earlier, the council had met 6 times since the inception, and that's the Elders and Knowledge Keepers Advisory Council. The coordinator of the initiative supports divisions and districts through strategic planning sessions. So 36 of the 37 divisions districts had participated in strategic planning sessions with the coordinator, and still working with the 37th, and I'm sure that they will be coming on board as well as the sort of early stages. It's coming to a year now, I guess, with the document being published and out there. It is getting great traction. School divisions, school leaders, First Nation leaders are really taking to it, because it's not just about Indigenous education and inclusion. It's about Indigenous education and inclusion. It's everybody. And that's why in my next answer, I'll elaborate a little bit on what we're doing for treaty education in the province as well.
The honourable member for Transcona.
Just to further go down this a little bit more, I'm also going to assume too that there are more sessions being planned, and that this is a piece that will continue to occur as we progress through 2023.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the question from the member from Transcona was, is this work going to continue? Well, my short answer to the member, but of course I'll want to elaborate on it, is yes, of course, because this is something that is important and has been important and came out loud and clear in the K-12 Commission. And that K-12 Commission brought forward recommendations and ideas and thoughts from over 30,000 Manitobans. And I know I shared this with the member before on multiple times, but I just like to continue putting it on the record that the K-12 Commission, the Commission on our K-12 education system here in Manitoba, the last Royal Commission on Education that was done here in Manitoba was 1957, 58, I guess, when it was published or finalized. And so lots of things have changed since then, and I would like to commend my predecessors, the former education ministers, and again thank the hard work of our premier and my colleagues in the PC government to actually move some of this forward. We do have, on an ongoing basis, we have dedicated staff, not only with the Indigenous Inclusion Directorate, but also with other areas of our department. We have dedicated funding, which I can go into in my next earliest opportunity. We're working with school divisions. As I had already mentioned, we expanded the Manitoba Rural Learning Consortium to Northern Manitoba and of course other areas of the province. We are, as I mentioned earlier, in regards to school divisions reporting, we've got the self-assessment tool, which is already in place, and it's well received by many of the member from Transcona's former colleagues and also some superintendents as well, school divisions, and they're reporting on making sure that the policy framework is actually being implemented. There's detailed roles and responsibilities in the document. I know the member is familiar with the document. So basically, if the member would turn to page 23 in Mamatuwisawin. Oh, okay. So I can endeavor, but you do, okay, so the member doesn't have the book with him right now, but I can endeavor to get him another copy. I think he's probably got one in his office. But so when we talk about the various different roles and responsibilities, this is a very well put together policy framework. And I think as we talked about the K-12 action plan, Mamatuwisawin is definitely a policy framework, I think, that sets it up, lays it out quite well of the roles and responsibilities of everybody involved. And keep in mind, not only is the K-12 action plan, but also the Mamatuwisawin, it is student-centered. Everything that we're doing in education revolves around the students. So there's roles for the students, there's roles for the teachers, there's roles for school-based support teams, there's roles for school leaders, roles for school divisions and district leaders, there's roles for, of course, Manitoba Education and Early Childhood Learning, and basically, to just sort of sum up some of those roles and responsibilities, is that we do have a moral and professional responsibility to support students' proficiency and their ability to navigate and walk strong like two people, Dogrib, in both traditional and contemporary worlds. And I know that we're working hard as a PC government to make sure, again, that we're providing the tools and the opportunities for all students in the province to again succeed no matter where they live, their cultural background, or their personal circumstance.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to assume that in the first part of that answer that there are sessions that are being planned for later on in the year so that this can get through to other schools, because that was my question. I do believe the minister did acknowledge that and did say that future sessions are being planned. Describing the roles in the Mama-Tuisamen piece are really important. I appreciate the minister going through that. The minister knows that I frame a lot of my questions in question period and in our dialogue together around kids, families, and communities. And I know in the public education system, we do a really good job with kids and families. The next piece, and you know, it's a challenge that everyone faces, is how do we get through to our communities so that our communities know what's going on in our schools, Mr. Chair, because that's really important. And the reason I'm kind of tying this back, I want to tie it back to, again, when I met with that young person and them feeling unsafe in the city of Winnipeg here, to the point where they don't want to continue their education in Manitoba. There is an important role for community. And I do also know that all schools are part of a community and an integral part of a community. The chair will know that there are members in the House that come from small towns, and schools are at the center of their communities. They play a really important role, Mr. Chair. Often one of not only identity, but also of espousing community values. With Mama-Tuisamen, how is the department getting, or is it, you know what, there's kind of two parts to this. I just want to go through the first part. How is the department getting the Mama-Tuisamen initiative out to communities? And is it expecting school divisions to communicate this strategy separate from the department? You want me to repeat that, or? No? Okay.
The honorable minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I believe I answered the member from Transcona's question in the very first few seconds of my last answer, but I'll just repeat it. Absolutely, this is ongoing. This cannot be a one and done. This cannot be something that is created in a curriculum support document. And I know the member has similar experiences and have seen this in schools, you know, not only in his own division, but across the province as well, where there's been some curriculum documents or some support materials created in the past, and they've been delivered by courier and boxes and wrapped in cellophane and delivered to the schools. And then staff at schools at times have taken these boxes, and at times leadership or teachers have taken these resources and taken them into their classrooms, and others they've sat on bookshelves or shelves within staff rooms. This is different. I think that Manitobans have absolutely embraced the fact that they were asked to come and have conversations, because I really do feel that our government is a listening and collaborative government working with our education partners. Now, not all the time are we going to agree on things, for sure not. But we want to make sure that we're there listening and the opportunities are there to listen. So absolutely, the sessions are continuing to be planned. We are really, this document was launched, you know, almost a year ago. And so we're sort of at the beginning, because I think a lot of, you know, and I want to respect the member for Transcona, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the past, but of course the member was not in his seat in the prior NDP government, but I really do think that there was missed opportunities. There was missed opportunities under the NDP government that I don't think that I don't know if they didn't take it serious or what, or they just didn't have any forethought to planning for the next, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of what was happening in Manitoba. But I do want to commend, again, my predecessors and our government for moving forward on some of these various different education initiatives. So the Elders and Knowledge Keepers Symposium, the first one was held in October of 2022. Next November, we're going to have Provincial 2 Days of Learning, which is going to actually be the first annual Mami-Tuiswin Conference. And within our school plans, and I know the member mentioned school plans, I think on our first day here, or maybe it was during his debate of the piece of legislation that's coming out. And that's all I'm saying about that, just so I don't get called out of order. Various different things have to be reflected in their school plans. So Mami-Tuiswin is being reflected in their school plans. It's also being supported by Safe and Caring Schools, which is the newest in policy directive and action plan on student presence and engagement. And we know that the student presence and engagement campaign, which we know that students who attend school regularly are more engaged in learning. They have a greater opportunity to access school and community resources and have a greater sense of belonging, as a member from Transcona knows. And you know, we've worked with various different communities, and we know that at times the schools within our smaller communities are the heartbeat of the communities. And so that's where many of the community partners go to share stories and get together. And I'll continue in my next answer.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know the minister has often said that these are living and breathing documents, and I do want to put on the record that Mamatuisaman has some real potential to be transformative, right? And we talk about opportunities, and this being one of them. I'm also hearing that in some of those responses that community is really the next step to make it even more effective. So that once kids leave the school building, they're practicing what they're learning, like what they do every time they leave a school, Mr. Chair. And that's the piece that I'm hoping for more progress in. The community engagement piece, because that will be, that's where it'll have, I believe, some real transformative things occur. I don't know what the correct terminology would be, but it can have a real transformative impact, Mr. Chair, on especially small communities, where like we've both said, where community schools are really the hub of what that community espouses. I do want to move on to another topic, and I know the minister knows this, that education is the great equalizer, providing opportunity for kids, for their families, and of course for their communities. But we know that kids that grow up in poverty and in marginalized communities struggle with their learning and have some real challenges that they face on a daily basis. I'd like to ask the minister, what is the department doing to address these inequities that kids living in poverty and marginalized communities deal with?
The honorable minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate any question coming from the member for Transcona on when we talk about poverty and education and the fact that of how many great initiatives that our PC government has brought forward, and also the Department of Education. First off, what I'm going to share with the member, and he knows this because, of course, Manitoba is a small province, and we're all a 16th degree of separation. And so our government, again, listening to the K-12 Commission and making sure that it was part of the K-12 action plan, we developed a poverty and education task force, which the final report was publicly released on February 24th, 2023. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the task force members for examining the correlation between poverty and education and providing recommendations on how to reduce the effects of poverty on Manitoba's education system. As a member for Transcona knows, being an educator himself, and again, as I've said, I haven't recorded the amount of years as he had in education, but we do know that many of our, as he mentioned, schools are the lifeblood of some of our small communities. And even within urban centers, I would say that many of the students and parents and guardians see their schools within the few blocks of where they live to be their lifeblood of their communities, and that safe place to be at. We know that teachers are being asked, and had been asked for years and years and years, to wear multiple different hats. And when we talk about poverty, I'm going to go over a few items that the Poverty and Education Task Force had come up with as far as recommendations. But this is not just a Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning issue. This isn't just a Department of Families issue. This is not just a Department of Justice issue. This is not just a Government of Manitoba issue. This is an all of province of Manitoba issue, and this is something that I think we can definitely continue to move forward as we continue to work together. So the task force, we know that it requires whole of systems approach to improve items such as food security and nutrition, mental health and racism and discrimination, to just name a few of the examples. The member in his next couple questions might or might not, I'm just going to throw it out there now, might want to talk about food, nutrition, and various other things that contribute either to poverty or that are some of the barriers or speed bumps for families and for students. I had the pleasure of being at an announcement with the now Minister of Advanced Education on the more than 200% increase to the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba, which was providing, according to their stats, roughly food programs to nearly 40,000, over 35,000 students in the province. And when we more than doubled that funding, we took that funding from $1.2 million to 2.5, and just recently, and this is why some of the discussion today, around the budget, I mean, this is the estimates process. I'm really hoping that the member across the way will stand up and vote for our budget, because we are annualizing those funds to make sure that it's sitting at that 2.5 million, and we've got more work to do, Mr. Chair, and we're going to do that more work. And I don't quite understand why in the 9 additional years that the NDP were in power since the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba was established, why they didn't see fit to increase that budget. But I'm glad that we did, Mr. Chair.
The honourable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's interesting. The minister brings up the Child Nutrition Council, and looking at, I guess, the minister must have read what I presented in the House, and because he was present there, and listened with interest when I outlined the challenges that Nutrition. I can't even say it sometimes. Nutrition Council is facing. They're very real challenges. He references his government's budget. It's very interesting that he would reference that because, you know, budgets, Mr. Chair, about choices. I've talked earlier in this process about this province being at an inflection point. You know, a government that really would have cared about nutrition programs would have completely eliminated the wait list, Mr. Chair, because the need is that great out there. The minister referenced the Poverty and Education Task Force that included young Manitobans on the task force. Their number one recommendation was to ensure that kids were fed in Manitoba schools. And what did they get from this government? A partial measure at a time when poverty is ravaging our province, and we know that it impacts our children the most. A place where children go every day is their school. So like I referenced earlier, Mr. Chair, the budget's about choices. So what choice did this government make? They made the choice to cut checks to out-of-province corporations to the tune of more than what they've put into the Child Nutrition Council requirements when wait lists exist. A challenge that was put before them that wasn't met. A partial measure. When what was really needed was a recognition of the need that's out there. Mr. Chair, I will quote a particular piece that I found interesting, is that the department is reviewing its in-school meal programs and that they're assessing breakfast and lunch programs. Because like I said, obviously, they've listened to the things that I've brought forth in the House. I'm glad they're responding to it by reviewing in-school meal programs, by seeing what's out there. It's an important step because then the minister and his government will know that that need needs to be met, and they will have the data for it. What I've put forward, Mr. Chair, is that every school report to the department and the minister regarding these particular meal programs so that they can tackle this challenge. Instead, what do we get? A partial measure. He knows this. And as I said earlier, I'm glad that this data is being collected now. So my question for the minister, Mr. Chair, is what update can he provide at this time regarding a timeline for this review around in-school meal programs? And the second part to this is, can he identify the groups the department is meeting with to conduct this review?
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the member bringing up the fact on the good work, again, that our government is doing, especially on the food and nutrition added investments that we have done. And I know that the member brings up topics about this budget and how, you know, how much great work we are doing in regards to making sure that life is more affordable for families. And I'm hoping that he will try to convince his leader, the member for Fort Rouge, to vote in favor of this budget, because some of the absolute major tax savings, putting more money into people's pockets, are happening yet again in this budget. And that's making sure that life is more affordable. And that's to make sure that people have more money to spend on groceries, clothing, transportation, or whatever priorities that those families see fit. We launched the Poverty and Education Task Force. We've released the final report on many of the initiatives. The member talks about half measures. Well, I know the member likes to talk about crumbs, Mr. Chair. But really, when the member comes forward with some ideas, he comes forward with some ideas now. He had 17 years. I don't know if he maybe didn't buy a party membership in those 17 years. Where was his voice then? I don't understand. And now he's coming and he's saying, PC government, why won't you do what we never did? And the nice thing is we're actually doing it. So we've 200% of funding to the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba. We've got the Poverty and Education Task Force. We're listening to Manitobans. We are delivering on those promises. And again, Mr. Chair, and I look for unanimous consent and voting and support for the budget. Many of the recommendations in the report from the task force are already underway. And the release of the task force final report, our government committed to ongoing review of the report's recommendations and following immediate actions. As the member brought up, we're reviewing in-school meal programs to improve that access with a focus on needs-based distribution of funding and resources. I know that the member, and you know, it's not really the member, Mr. Chair. I have to give him some credit because I know it's his leader, and it's those talking points coming down from his leader about the partnerships. They don't believe in partnerships. I had the pleasure of also participating in a great announcement with the Minister of Families in regards to moving forward with the menstrual products announcement as well. This is something that is breaking down barriers, and it's our government that's doing it. So we've more than doubled, so 200% to the Child Nutrition Council of Manitoba. We've partnered with Shoppers Drug Mart on menstrual products to schools and to shelters throughout Manitoba and First Nations communities. We're developing a clear anti-racism policy directive that sets expectations and guidance in all Manitoba schools. We're expanding the community schools program by investing almost $600,000 to fund 5 additional schools and communities which experience high poverty. I can go into a little bit more depth on that, but I did want to also talk about the hard work of our community activists, advocates that worked with us also on the presence and engagement. I want to just read a quote from one of those community advocates, and the community advocate says, "Personally, I believe it is the most important initiative I have ever been involved in." Who said that, Mr. Chair? Mr. Sel Burrows. He did say that.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yet there remains a wait list. And yet when we talk to the Child Nutrition Council, they remain disappointed in the level of communication with this department regarding the needs. That is true. That is definitely true. And that's in our dialogue that we have had together. Again, growing up, and the minister knows this. I know he's younger than I am, right? But I will say that my parents taught me that when presented with a challenge, you do the full job, Mr. Chair. Half jobs only create work later on down the line, and they disappoint people. The full job needed to be done when it came to nutrition programs. And it wasn't done, Mr. Chair, clearly. The wait lists are growing. I want to remind the minister that this is a challenge that was not lived up to. One that is still existing. And one that the government needs to respond to. It's an important piece. And it's something that is brought up regularly to myself as critic. Now, another piece that has come up is some of the confusion around online high school and online education access. We do know that outlined on page 17 of the estimates book, there is mention of an online high school. We also know, Mr. Chair, that the only online school for grades 1 to 8 is closing. And that's caused some confusion out there as to how these students will be serviced. And I do know that the parents and kids and school divisions are wondering about next steps here. The department, and I don't want to put words in the minister's mouth when it comes to this, but this is out there, and I don't know if he said it. But they're assuring that students who are immunocompromised or who reside within an immunocompromised household will continue to have these remote services delivered by their local school divisions. Yet there are local school divisions that are saying that government has not directed them to provide remote learning. So my question to the minister is, regarding this, is there is information out there that immunocompromised kids that were in that grade 1 to 8 remote learning center were told that they'll receive that service from their home school division. These school divisions are saying they have yet to receive that directive from the department. Can the minister clear up this confusion today or provide direction for these families regarding next steps around the remote learning center?
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've got a couple of topics here we're going to address in these next 5 minutes and maybe over the next few days here, as well as we continue with the estimates process for education and early childhood learning. So again, the member puts, I'm going to have to say, puts false information on the record on his first topic, and then I'll talk about the misinformation and the fear mongering that is coming, that he's putting on the record in the second topic. So first topic is the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba and the funding. So the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba was established in 2006 with $1.2 million. That was the former NDP government. I have to give them some credit for that, absolutely. But what also the member from Transcona is failing to recognize and failing to point fingers at his own group on the opposition side of the bench is that children's nutrition within schools and poverty within Manitoba had continued to grow. And they, as a governing party for 17 years after 2006, really did not a whole lot in regards to children's nutrition or poverty. And so just recently, we more than doubled the funds to the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba. Nobody has said here, including myself or our government, that all that work is done and that washing the hands of anything. There's many great things that need to be done yet, and we will continue to work with our education partners. But I take offense that the member for Transcona, again, takes a look at a 200% increase to the funds going to the Children's Nutrition Council of Manitoba as mere crumbs, because they didn't do it. The NDP didn't do it. He talks about a half plan going halfway. Well, at least we got going on the journey where the NDP failed to even start the vehicle or get on their bicycle and even get pedaling. It's I can't believe, I'm pretty sure that many of the members' membership or supporters are also disappointed in their 17 years of inaction on this file. We're moving the needle and we're making great strides in breaking down some of those barriers. And when we have a community advocate giving us credit, the PC government credit for many of the great initiatives that we're doing, I think speaks loudly and is a great compliment. And I think that also shows the fact that our PC government is continuing to work with partners of all political stripes, because no one person holds the key to any good ideas. It's good to share and to collaborate across party lines. So now getting to the information in regards to the Remote Learning Support Center, the grades 1 to 8. It was put into place as an emergency measure for COVID-19 for students that are immunocompromised. And we are strongly encouraging families to reach out to the respective school divisions regarding the transition for this coming school year. Students who continue to require accommodations will be supported by their local school division and their dedicated staff as part of student-specific planning. I'm hoping that the member from Transcona is going to apologize for the misinformation he's put on the record, where he is saying that I am saying that school divisions are going to deliver remote learning. That's not it at all. The fact is that we're encouraging these students to reconnect with their school divisions and local school communities, work with the great student services teams that are within those school communities, because all those resources are still available to those educators and those student services personnel who are going to help with those student-initiated planning to make sure that success is being had by all students in this great province of ours, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm hoping that when parents and families reach out to the department, that they're going to get some clarity around this remote learning center and the supports that divisions are expected to provide. There is confusion out there. I want to put this respectfully on the radar. I also do want to address, and the minister was correct when he said that I did not put words in his mouth. I was looking for clarification. That's the whole point of this process, to ensure that we're clear. Because there are families that are really concerned about their kids and they want to ensure that they're going to get the support, because they had an amazing amount of success with a remote learning center. It was a highly regarded piece that was put in place. I'm willing to put that on the record, absolutely. And people were caught off guard by the remote learning center being shut down with very little notice. That is the piece that has left people disappointed, I will say, Mr. Chair. And so I want to put this on the record and on the radar for the department so that they're ready for when they get asked questions regarding this, as to what the expectation is moving forward for kids that are immunocompromised. I do notice that my colleague from Tyndall Park has arrived and would like to ask the minister questions.
The honorable minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And before we get to my colleague from Tyndall Park's questions, I do want to ask the member for Transcona also then, if he's not putting words on the record that's putting misinformation out there, and that's according to his words, then I'm hoping that he will, some of his colleagues will stop putting then misinformation on the record in regards to the remote learning center, so that it is clarity for those parents and guardians that they know that the department again had put in place the remote learning resource center, support center, in the emergent piece under COVID-19 for those students or households that had immunocompromised family members. Worldwide pandemic. I'd like to commend not only the department, but also all of our education partners that work together to make sure that students were able to, well, first of all, teachers and divisions were able to keep their schools open to continue learning. But then for those students and those families that were immunocompromised had the ability to do the remote learning. And I do want to commend, of course, the center was operated by the St. James Assiniboia School Division since January of 2021. And the contract and the design of the program was designed to be short-term. And again, to the families affected, there was communication sent out early February, and I know that the member is listening attentively and will share this along with many of his parents or community members that have taken part and want some clarity around this topic. But the information was sent out in February because myself, I know as a former guidance counselor working with those students who had to then do classes and course selections, getting in time for that spring break time so that the school administration had the time to to build those timetables, to build those opportunities, to sit down with student services personnel and plan out what are those learning opportunities and challenges for those students so that they can hit the ground running in school year of 23-24. And so that's why families, again, I'm going to put this on the record and the members can definitely quote me so that he can make sure that the proper information for clarity's sake, and we're making sure that we're working with those school divisions and making sure we're getting information to families, superintendents, administration to make sure that they're clear on the expectations, and that families are strongly encouraged to reach out to their respective school divisions in regarding to the transition. Students who continue to require accommodations will be supported by their local school division and their dedicated staff as part of the student-specific planning. At this time, if further support is needed, families or school leaders can reach out, and I'll give the name, to Ted Franson, who's our provincial lead for remote learning, at ted.franson@gov.mb.ca. I know that not only the Remote Learning Support Center was in place to help students and families with immunocompromised, I know that many schools and school divisions and school personnel all across this great province of ours really stepped up to make sure that they had the students at the center of their attention, making sure that they continued to learn as time had gone on through COVID. And even though we had the Manitoba Remote Learning Support Center, I know that school divisions had done some other individualized education plans, adaptive education plans, to make sure that the students' learning had continued throughout COVID. And I want to thank everyone involved, including the staff who worked with the Manitoba Remote Learning Support Center.
The honorable member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and I'd like to thank the Minister and the Department for joining us here today and answering some of our questions, as well as the critic for education from the NDP for allowing me some time here to ask some questions. I'm going to be circling around. I know I have a little bit of time here, but I'll jump sort of from topic to topic a little bit. The first question I have is more just to be abundantly clear. We're very excited about the $10 a day childcare. I want to get on record and make sure I can reflect back to it that does $10 a day childcare also extend to extended day programs as well as holidays? Will parents still only have to pay $10 a day on these days?
The Honorable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I welcome and thank the member for Tyndall Park to participate in the estimates process. I'm just going to ask her just a quick clarifying question. When you were asking the question, were you specifically talking about any particular age group, or were you talking in general?
The Honorable Before I recognize the member for Tyndall Park, I'll just remind the members to direct questions and answers through the chair. The Honorable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Just to clarify, I would love answers to all ages, but I was just thinking children specifically who are in childcare spots, whether that be facilities or home childcare spots, before and after school.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I guess for clarification to the member from Tyndall Park, the easiest way, and as the member knows, we did the great announcement not that long ago, and her federal partner was in town for that announcement as well, and you know, I've been working with the federal minister for childcare as well, fairly closely over the last 14, 15 months to be able to bring $10 a day daycare to fruition. And the member knows that the Canada-Manitoba agreement, prior to that, Manitoba had one of the lowest childcare fees outside of Quebec. And the fees have been kept affordable through our provincial operating grants and the provincial subsidy program, with a total investment of almost $140 million annually. And so what we did last year, this time last year, March, we expanded the subsidy thresholds to make sure that more parents and guardians had access to the subsidies. And so this is something that under the former government, and the member knows this, that under the former government, they had roughly about 6,000 childcare spaces in Manitoba that were subsidized. And when we expanded those thresholds, we increased the income thresholds by the eligibility by about 45%. So by doing that, we actually, for full and part-time subsidy, or full or partial subsidy, we had taken those 6,000 spaces and actually elevated that all the way to 18,000. So that's 300% increase on that. So beginning April 2nd, just a few short sleeps ago, 2023 parent fees were reduced to $10 per day for infant, preschool, and nursery spaces. Through additional provincial investment, school age fees are also being reduced to $10 for a regular day of 3 periods of care. So again, when we talk about infant, for as an example, we went from $30 a day for parents who had an infant in daycare to $10 a day, which is a savings of about, well, not about, it's $100 a week, which is significant. I know the member was asking specifically about before and after school periods. And so as we said, when we talk about school age fees that are being reduced to $10, that's for a regular day of 3 periods of care. Before school, lunch, and after school. So keep in mind that all these fees, even though it's $10 a day, if parents apply and they get subsidy, they could be paying as low as $2 and you know, between $2 and $10. If those school age students are only doing 2 periods of care, say a before and after school, and I'm just using examples, but before and after school, and then they're having lunch at school, say, they're paying, no, lunch at school, so good, $8.60, and then 3 periods of care is that $10. And keep in mind, they can also apply for that subsidy, which then could potentially bring them down to that $2 a day. So hopefully that helps for some clarity, but at the same time, I would highly recommend the member, and we try to get this out not only to our childcare centers, but also to families, to make sure that they go to that website, mb.ca/10-add-day, and it takes them right to the website. There's questions and answers there, and there's clarity as far as exactly how much they would be paying. And also to the member, just keep in mind that the Canada-Manitoba agreement, that's a national agreement that provinces have signed on for $10 on average a day. We went above and beyond, and we brought in $10 a day starting April 2nd, which is actually 3 years ahead of schedule for parents.
The honorable member for Kendall Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And the minister mentioned the announcement that was made recently, and it has me reflecting upon it, and the terminology that was used was regular hours. And so I'm hoping that the minister can answer and clearly define to the best of his ability what regular hours mean, because since the announcement, I have had people come to me and say that their child care fees are not going down to $10 an hour because they don't fall under those regular hours. If he can confirm where the confusion is coming from.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and again, had the opportunity to be joined by the Premier and the Prime Minister and some well-known people to the member for Tyndall Park as well for the announcement on $10 a day daycare. And so I know that the member's father was there as well, and we participated in the announcement. And so all these rates in regards to any type of scenarios are on that website. So when we are talking about the varying degrees of care, so we've got, again, 4 to 10 hours per day for a regular period of care, 4 to 10 hours per day. The maximum daily fee will be $10 per day for children ages 0 to 6. Infant fees are being reduced from $30 to $10 a day. Nursery and preschool fees are being reduced from $20 to $10 a day. And in the school age, those are 3 periods of care: before school, lunchtime, and after school. Those are the 3 periods. Those are also $10 a day. And each and every one of those spaces and those students, children, their parents or guardians can definitely go and see and apply for subsidy, and they could be paying even less than the $10 a day.
The Honorable Member for Tyndall Park.
Okay, so I think I'm just looking for, like, very much so clarity, just a yes or no. I believe it would be a yes or no question. So a child who is in an extended day program or attending childcare on a holiday, are they still eligible for $10 a day?
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the rates for infant, preschool, and school age, as the announcement goes on April 2nd, and that's when it came into effect, is definitely $10 a day for a regular day of care. Now, the member's asking about extended care and part-time care and all of that. So we've significantly reduced the amount of money that parents have to pay for childcare in Manitoba. And keep in mind that Manitoba was already a leader in the country. And so the part-time fees, if the parents and guardians are seeking part-time care for their children, they will be paying less than the $10 a day. When we talk about extended care, and this is where we worked quite closely within the department and the Manitoba Child Care Association to take a look at these fees and the various different service providers and child care centers throughout the province. We have to keep in mind that extended care is just that. It's extended care on top of a regular day. And as we said, a regular day of care for an infant and preschool is looking to, 4 to 10 hours per day. School age, which is grade 1 and higher, we're looking at three periods for the day, and that's before school, lunchtime, and after school. As the member may or may not know, and again, I'm going to direct the member to the website, and then if there's any, and this is what I've been doing as well, any parents, because they've contacted me, and we're just trying to provide as much clarity as possible. The website has some great information on it to be able to provide the specific situation that parents or guardians are in for their children, to be able to know exactly how much they're paying. I think under our government, we've been even more transparent in regards to what fees are being offered. So when we talk about extended care for an infant, for less than 4 hours per day, here's that partial. Maximum daily fee charged to parents is $5. And again, I know that the member is frantically wants to write some stuff down. This is all on the website. So for less than 4 hours per day, it's $5. So if it's 4 hours to 10 hours a day, it's $10. For more than 10 hours per day for an infant, it's $15. Keep in mind the amount of subsidy that we have now provided to those parents and to those childcare centers. The original extended time of our period of care for those infant children used to be $45 a day. It is now down to $15. That is significant savings. That's $30 of savings per day. So that's $150 a week if those parents had sought more than 10 hours per day of care. Preschool, less than 4 hours a day under the new maximum daily fee is $5. 4 hours to 10 hours per day is $10. More than 10 hours per day is $15. Now for preschool children, the original fee was $31.20 for extended hours of care. We're now down to $15. That's a savings of $16.20. Again, significant. 80 some odd dollars per week savings. Again, direct the member to the website. I know that when we talk about extended periods of care, I know that members are asking, parents are asking, guardians are asking. I think, the opposition tries to paint us with an insincere brush at times. I think right from the start of the announcement, we've been very clear. It's $10 a day for a regular day of care. And keep in mind that we've increased the subsidies for people to even pay less.
The Honorable Minister's time is up.
Thanks.
The Honorable Member for Tyndall Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, and time goes by very quickly here, and so recognizing that this will be my last opportunity to ask a question, I'm going to ask three, and if the minister and the department can just do their best to answer and address them, that would be great. First question, can the minister list how many ECEs are needed given the expansion of childcare spaces? Second question, is there a process for assessing literacy and numeracy issues in childcare? Can the minister explain if there are any plans to oversee issues such as these? And number three, can the minister explain the reasons the online childcare registry was discontinued and what measures the government have taken to ensure data for childcare accessibility remains readily accessible? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the question coming from the member for Tyndall Park, and I think what she could endeavor to do moving forward is work with the member from Transcona and maybe get her a little bit more time or a couple more questions. But we're going to endeavor to answer her questions as quickly as I can in the short amount of time that I have. So we're going to start with the last one first and then move to the other one. So in regards to the child registry, I mean, the member from Tyndall Park absolutely knows that the system that was under the former NDP government absolutely was a mess. And it led to confusion. It led to wait lists all over this province of ours. And really, they didn't have a good handle on it at all. And so what we've done is there is a new system in place that responds to the needs and gives real-time spaces available. And so we encourage parents to reach out to those childcare centers, but also online, because the childcare centers update it weekly, to go to Manitoba Childcare Search. And the centers update that weekly to see where the different spots are, and parents can actually go directly to the centers as opposed to going on a on a provincial-wide list that I don't even know if the members opposite, from the NDP side ever really took a look at that list ever. But it was a mess. This is tighter. This is cleaner. And as the member knows, we've made a commitment to increase childcare spaces to the tune of 23,000. And there's so many initiatives that we have embarked on to make sure that we're striving towards that goal of 23,000. And that's whether it's building more spaces, whether it's, again, as we've already talked about, the $10 a day, making childcare more affordable to families. But then also, I think this is, I'm not gonna say it's the most important part, because I think all three are really, really, really important, is to make sure that after 20 plus years, our early childhood educators, I think is really important to make sure that we all show that we value them. Because really, in regards to moving Manitoba's economy forward, we need childcare. And Manitoba works because of childcare. And so with that, we're making sure that we're building on the workforce as well. So we're looking at 2,000 ECEs and 1,000 CCAs. We're working quite closely with our post-secondary institutions. I don't know why this wasn't done under the previous government, but there's many things that weren't done under the previous government that I think has all Manitobans scratching their head, but we're getting it done. And so we're making sure that we're working with the post-secondary institutions. We're making sure that we're working with post-secondary institutions to make sure that we're increasing those seats. But at the same time, we're recruiting those young individuals or people who want to get into the childcare sector by also giving them $5,000 per student per year of education. Because why? Because this goes to her second question, literacy and numeracy. What do we strive for? We want to make sure that whether it's our education system or early childhood education system, that we're providing high quality early childhood education and K-12 education, and making sure that our workforce has the superb training that they need to, again, work with our most precious resource, and that's our kids in this great province of ours. So we're making sure that we're checking out on, in regards to literacy and numeracy, early assessments are addressed through inclusion support program. Because at the same time, when the Premier appointed me Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning, she took those two departments and amalgamated them, because that transition to go from 0 to the age of 19-ish, I think was I don't want to say it was a no-brainer. I think it was something that should have been done a long time ago, because as we continue to transition from early childhood education into the K-12 system, I think those synergies and that ability to collaborate and have those conversations about making sure that where those students are in the continuum are very important.
The honorable member for Transcona.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity. There is one thing that I want to end off on before we get to the end of our time here today. I do want to remind the Minister of the fact that the modest funding announcement that came in February has certainly fallen flat in Manitoba when it comes to public schools, to the point where that many in the sector remain disappointed. They are been unable to reinstate the cuts to services that they were forced to make during the previous 7 years. It's been well noted. During that time, from February to March, when there was an opportunity to do something about it, they didn't do anything about it, despite the warning signs that were coming from the partners that work with the department, that being school divisions. Were reduction in staffing levels, deferred maintenance, cuts to programs, the use of emergency funds. These are happening right now. And I want the record to show that, Mr. Chair. the day-to-day reality that is being faced by school divisions is one that required, brought on by this government, years of underfunding, to now where we have situations where deferred maintenance, a piling on deferred maintenance, is going to have a real impact on a child's experience at school. And we know that funding is a big issue in this province. So my question to the minister is this: is the new funding model done? Has the cabinet considered the plan? And will it be released before the election so that Manitobans know exactly the direction that this government wants to take public school funding?
The Honorable Minister.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank the, well, sort of thank the member for the question. I know that, some of my answers, unfortunately, the member refuses to listen to them and cites some misinformation onto the record. I know that some of his NDP supporters throughout the province have been quite vocal, putting misinformation on the record. I know that, as he knows, I don't know what kind of money safe the member for Transcona has in his house, Mr. Chair. But when the member from Transcona, and again, I'm going to more so blame his leader for this. When the leader of the NDP party passes along to the member for Transcona verbiage such as $100 million to K-12 education, a 6.1% increase, Mr. Chair, as crumbs. And he said it again, crumbs, $100 million. And he says a drop in the bucket. I know that now the member's not only taking his leader's words, but he's taking an editorial's words. $100 million, 6.1% increase to K-12 education funding. When you take a look back to when we took office, Mr. Chair.
I'll remind members that the minister, Honorable Minister, has the floor. The Honorable Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that, for your guidance and setting us in committee on the right path. I stress the word right, Mr. Chair. So when we took office in 2016 to this year's 23-24 school year's funding announcement of $100 million, 6.1% increase, that's over a 23% increase. That's actually closer to 25% increase in education funding. And the member opposite from Transcona, which again, he put on the record yesterday and again today, has called it $100 million this year, crumbs, and he quoted an editorial of a drop in the bucket. Well, Mr. Chair, it looks like we need to do more work to help the NDP opposition with some of their numeracy work on how to calculate increases. More, Mr. Chair, is not less. I've tabled the documents for the member in the House, but it just so happens I had this feeling that the member was probably going to bring this type of question up. So I'm going to table, I'm not sure how many copies I need for a committee. Do I still need 3 or 4? 2 only. 2 copies of education funding. It's a chart for the member. I know sometimes maybe he has a tough time and maybe he's reading it upside down but he's an educator. I'm going to give him the credit. And he's a former administrator. I'm going to hand these over to the Mr. Chair to share with the member. The member has this already. But the steady increase, Mr. Chair, the chart starts in 2013-14, a steady increase and quite the jump in 23-24 as well over the last 10 years, Mr. Chair. With this fall's education tax coming off a property, which is going to be 50% of a reduction, I know the member is going to throw that into his safe at home because he doesn't need that money. Because he is must be one of those multimillionaires that he continues to reference on the record, Mr. Chair. I look forward to
The hour being 5 o'clock, committee rise.